I'm Nash,
I'm Anton.
and welcome back to another episode of the Strivers Podcast. Today we're joined here by Forrest Freedman, the up-and-coming state attorney that has a big election coming up. So why don't you come and introduce yourself to the viewers?
Well, thank you, Nash. Hi, I'm Forrest Freedman, and I'm running for state attorney of Palm Beach County. And you might question, why am I here being interviewed by you guys? And the reason I'm here is because if you're 18 or older, you're part of the system. And 2024 may be your first election to vote ever. And if you don't like what you see going on out there, if you don't think they're listening to you, then you have to get involved. And getting involved is talking to the candidates and finding out what they're going to do for you. I'm running for state attorney because the state attorney's job is to prosecute people charged with crimes in Palm Beach County, the entire Palm Beach County, from Boca to Jupiter, Wellington to Riviera Beach, Pahokee, Belle Glade, and everything in between. Everybody wants to have one equal system of justice for all, fair and square for everybody, rich, poor, regardless of color, whatever religion you believe in. You want one system, and you want to have a fair shake.
So what exactly does a state attorney do?
Well, a state attorney, for most people, what does a state attorney do? Well, you're driving, you're probably speeding, you're going 75 and a 55, and a police officer activates his lights and sirens, and he pulls you over and gives you a ticket. And on the ticket, it says you have to do a bunch of things or appear in court. The state attorney's office is the person, the attorney that's in charge with representing the state of Florida in the crime that you're alleged to have committed. And the state attorney's office is supposed to use compassion for first-time offenders and give out real punishment for violent and repeat offenders. So for most people, they get a ticket and they're worried about going to court. They're worried about what to wear. You should go to court wearing something that you'd wear for church to show respect for the court and for the judge. It always gains you points as opposed to somebody coming in a t-shirt and shorts. Who's going to get the break? The person who shows respect for the courts. The process starts, everybody introduces themselves, the state attorney gets up, the judge says, you're here amongst a group of people who are charged with different offenses. Your name is called, the state attorney reads out the charge, if it's speeding, say 85 and a 60, and they ask you, what do you want to do? And the first thing that everybody has to do is plea. You either plead that you're guilty, you plead that you're not guilty, or you plead no contest. And depending on how you plead, and the judge will give you some tips, because most people, their only interaction with the court system is a ticket. Sometimes it's a shoplifting, somebody got a dare in high school, or something in juvenile offense. But most people, 95% of the people, their only time they're ever going to have to go to court is possibly a shoplifting or blowing off firecrackers where they're not supposed to do it, or a speeding ticket, or something minor like that. And our job is to look at you, get you through the system as quickly as possible, possibly get you a fine, give you a diversion program, which means that if you do everything that we tell you that you're supposed to do, the charges get dropped. Now, the state attorney's office doesn't do that for everybody. If you're part of a gang and you go into Target and you take all the merchandise off the shelves and you put it in your cars and trucks and sell it on the black market, well, the state attorney's job is then to prosecute you and to put those perpetrators in jail if they're convicted, either by a judge or by a jury of their peers. What's a jury? Either 6 or 12 people who come from the community who listen to the facts of the case as presented by the police officer and then presented by either the public defender or your private attorney. And then they decide whether you did it or you didn't do it.
So tell us a little about your past. Where'd you go to law school?
Well, I went to law school at Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri, and I finished off in Washington, D.C. I did a tax program at Georgetown, and I have been practicing law both as a state attorney, assistant state attorney in the Bronx, New York, in Boston, Massachusetts, and then I moved down to the great state of Florida, and I have been in private practice until now.
Very nice.
So,
And, sorry to cut you off, but like, tell us a little bit like the background you need to be a state attorney.
Well, it helps if you've worked as an assistant state attorney, meaning it helps if you have been in situations where you've gone to court, where you're an actual, where you're before a judge and a jury, and where you gain practice in prosecuting those who are accused of committing crimes. If you do that for a while, and I did that for 4.5 years, and I tried hundreds of non-jury and jury trials, you get experience on what it takes to be a prosecutor. You get experience to know when compassion is warranted, and you get experience to know when people have to be punished for making very bad decisions that hurt others.
so is there any like specific traits or things that you need to actually become a state attorney, like law school experience, experience in the DA's office? Is there anything that really specific in how you can really become a state attorney?
There's nothing exactly specific other than you have to be a licensed attorney in the state of Florida. And as I said, it helps to have a choice and elect somebody who's formally served as a state attorney. In my case, I've also run a bank, I've run several businesses, and the state attorney's office is not just trying the individual criminal defendant, but it is running a couple hundred state attorneys and victim witness people and investigators, and it's running a big business. And you want to run it efficiently, you want to run it fairly so that everybody feels they're getting a fair shake. And that's what I'm going to do in Palm Beach County.
So with crime escalating around the country and a lot of crime everywhere, how are you going to help keep Palm Beach County safe, and what are you looking forward to the most when keeping Palm Beach County safe?
I will work very closely with the police so that people who are caught committing crimes are actually prosecuted for those crimes. I want there to be a set, immediate precedent for anybody who is caught for the first time, that they have a chance at a diversion program so long as they're accused of a crime that is not violent in nature, with the hope that if they go through a diversion program, it solves two things. One, for the state of Florida, it means that the person is reformed and probably is not going to get involved in the criminal justice system again, and that's a win for the taxpayers of the state of Florida. And then for the defendant charge, they know if they do and follow the rules, whether they go to a shoplifting program or they take a driver education course, that with paying a small fine, that their record will stay clean. So it benefits both.
So when it comes to electing a state attorney, you obviously are part of the Republican Party. Is being affiliated with each party, does that make a difference when choosing your state attorney? Why is it important to be a Republican as a state attorney?
Well, I've been a Republican for a long time, and I could go on with that for hours, but that's not the point of this. In a usual election, a state attorney's office shouldn't be political. It shouldn't matter whether you're a Democrat, Republican, independent, no party affiliation, or have never voted before. You should know that if you are arrested or get a notice to come to court, that the people who are going to prosecute you are going to be fair and square, and they are not going to use your race, religion, or political affiliation against you in prosecuting a crime. Republicans clearly don't do that. We have one system of justice for all. But anybody who's looked around this country knows that in blue cities, up north, we've seen that the prosecutor's offices in cities and states have been used to attack political opponents, and that's not good for anybody. I don't believe in wasting the taxpayers' money. The job of the state attorney is, again, to get and prosecute violent and repeat offenders and put them in jail. And for everybody else, use some compassion, get them in and out of the system as quickly as possible so that they don't be a part of the system again.
And why do you think that people should vote for you? What are you bringing to the table compared to other candidates running?
I think that's a really great question. Right now, I'm running against 4 Democrats, 1 other Republican, and 1 person that has no party affiliation. As somebody that's run businesses that have had hundreds of employees and worked in 2 very large state attorneys' offices, I know that our resources are sometimes cramped. So my job and my vision of the state attorney's office is to put more emphasis on prosecuting violent and repeat offenders while at the same time putting more diversion programs for those first-time offenders to get them quickly and efficiently out of the system so we can use our resources to put those who commit homicides, murders, human trafficking, drug smuggling, or any other armed robbery, burglaries, or any other serious crimes, to put those people in jail if they are convicted either by a judge or by a jury of their peers.
And how would this help young people?
Young people, that's a very important question, because most times a young person, the only time they're going to get something is if they get a ticket. And my belief is that the state attorney's office or the criminal justice system as a whole is not about taxing. Our job is not really to raise revenue. So if I'm elected state attorney in Palm Beach County, we're going to look into a program to make your first time ticket, so long as it's non-criminal, so long as it's not for drunk driving, we're going to try to give you an automatic warning. And if you don't get another ticket for 3 years, the ticket will be dropped and you'll owe nothing. I think having that experience with the state attorney's office, for most individuals, they don't want to be in that situation ever again. And my experience as a juvenile assistant DA, where I had to require students or people under 18 who were charged with crimes, we often had them write essays, take pictures of those markers on the side of the road where people had been killed so that they'd learn a lesson. And we know that if students and young people get diversion, that 90% of the people will never see again. So we've done our job, we've saved the taxpayers' money, and we haven't hurt people permanently so that they can get a job. Because again, if you're convicted of a crime, it'll be on your record and future employers are going to notice it.
Now, since I've turned 18, and I know a bunch of the audience has also turned 18, how does one, register to vote for this upcoming election? How do they partake in this election and support you?
That's a really great question. The easiest way to do this, because everybody has a phone, is they have to type in registertovoteflorida.gov. Again,
We'll put a link right here for you to see it.
registertovoteflorida.gov, and it will take you to this website, which I happen to bring the paperwork. I know you can't see it. And it gives you a chance to register online or register in person. It tells you how to do it. It takes around 5 minutes.
Perfect.
As long as you have your driver's license, you're ready to go.
That's awesome.
And you can become part of the system. Instead of criticizing it, instead of saying they're making decisions for us and we don't have a say, have a say. And maybe one day you'll be sitting where I'm sitting.
Now, how does one, I know campaigning takes a lot of effort and a lot of stuff that goes into it. So how does one maybe, support your campaign, possibly donate? How does one help out with that?
Well, we have a website, and everybody has a website, but our website is Forrest Freedman, FORREST, FREEDMAN.com. fundraised.com. And if you go there, you can sign up to volunteer on the campaign, whether it's holding signs, working in the office, helping out in the direct mail, social media component, which you guys are great at.
Thank you.
Or you can also donate. And whether it's $5 or $1,000, every donation counts. As you've heard nowadays, everybody's cramped. The economy's tight. The economy's no good. And so I'm not asking people for large donations. I'm asking people to make $5, $10 donations because it adds up. Unfortunately, billboards aren't free, commercials aren't free, signs, pins, buttons, shirts aren't free. But if we all pitch in a little bit, then it adds up and it goes a long way. Nobody should have to do it all. We should all have skin in the game. We all should participate. We all should choose which politicians we support. And the most important thing in 2024 is to register and to come out to vote.
So what has been like the most fun part about running your campaign so far?
Well, I've run for office before in the state of Massachusetts, but this time, because I haven't done it in a long time, I felt this is a great way to reconnect with people, meet neighbors. I've gone to old age communities, I've gone to schools, I've gone to various community groups. I go and talk before the Masons, Kiwanis, Rotary. I'll go to Century Village in Kings Point. I'll go to schools. I'll go to political clubs. And it's amazing how many people really don't have any idea what the state attorney's office does. And the only time they find out is, again, they get a ticket. Or unfortunately, maybe somebody may have accidentally shoplifted something. And that's when they get real scared. But my job has been to educate them about the system and tell them why I think by putting people as assistant state attorneys and as investigators and secretaries that represent the entire Palm Beach County, that we can have a better system. I think we can get rid of some of the fraud and run the state attorney's office more efficiently. There's a huge budget. I'm going to look and see where every dollar's going, and where we can cut money, we're going to use it to hire more people to help all of you. Where we can cut money, we don't have to raise as much money, and maybe we can try to cut down some of the fines for traffic tickets. Again, our job is to keep people who spears, who commit traffic crimes out of the system, and again, to make sure that if you're shopping or if you're in a parking lot or going to a movie, that the robber isn't going to make you a victim. And if they do, then our job is to punish them and get restitution or compensation for you.
So how do you intend to keep, a fair and safe election with this upcoming election?
That's a really difficult question. And it's not just going to be up to me. It's up to all of you. Most everybody has a camera on their phone and it has a video component. And I'm telling you, not only do you need to register to vote, but you have to bring your phone to the polling places, and especially when you're standing in line. And you're able to record people that if you see something, don't just say something, record it. And then call your local television station or national news outlets, because they're all looking. They're all looking to have recordings of where they see irregularities. So if you see somebody driving up to a polling place and they're taking out a box of what it looks like to be ballots or envelopes and dumping them into a vote collection box, take a picture of it, take a video of it, take a picture of the license plate, and take a picture of the individual and make sure it's clear. They're going to say, oh, you can't do it, but yes, you can, because they're interfering in the election process. They're trying to steal your rights. They're trying to take away your right to vote by diluting your vote with fake and illegal ballots. And yes, if you do it, if you say something, you will make a difference. You'll get on TV, you'll look like you're responsible, and who knows, somebody might see you and offer you a job or may help you get into college, because that's important. Because if people don't have faith in our election system, well, then they're going to take matters into their own hands. And that's not good for any of us. That's why I'm standing up. I'm hand in hand with law enforcement. I support them 100%. Both the state attorney's office and law enforcement aren't perfect all of the time. When we're wrong, point it out, and the wrongdoers will be prosecuted. My predecessor, David Ehrenberg, is retiring after 12 years. People have come up to me and said, well, there was this problem or that problem in the office. And I've said to them, I'm fair and square. Reduce it to an affidavit. If I'm elected, we'll look into everything. If there's substance behind it, if there's smoke, we'll look for the fire and then we'll put it out.
So when it comes to the voting process, are people able to vote online, in person, mail in? How does this
Yeah, I know you mentioned online.
Again, in the state of Florida, Wendy Satori is the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections. If you go to register to vote, florida.gov, you will be able to get a mail-in ballot. You have to vote either in person or by mail. You can register to vote online, but they're going to send you an actual physical ballot. You have to fill it out. You have to seal it. You have to put it in your mailbox. And then there's a barcode link, and you can track where your ballot has gone. Or you can take that mail-in ballot and go and vote on Election Day, which in my case is going to be on August 20th. That's the primary. And then the general election, November 5th, 2024. You can bring in that ballot and exchange it for an in-person ballot. That way nobody can falsely vote for you. Because that's what we're seeing. People who are being registered to vote when they're dead or in nursing homes by people who are breaking the law. And one way we can stop that is to show that you actually came to the polls, so the mail-in vote that they supplied was fraudulent. And then you can prosecute them. And that's one type of crime that we are really going to look at. We're going to look at crimes against the elderly and crimes against all of us. And the biggest crime against all of us is voter fraud.
Does voter fraud happen often?
Well, since we've had elections, even way back to Abraham Lincoln, and I wasn't around back then, there's always been voter fraud. But for the most part, it was small. It affected local elections. And sometimes you see elections that are decided by 1 or 2 votes. Most recently, there have been allegations of other frauds. Back in the last election, 2020, I remember watching on TV when the polls were closed, poll workers taking out trunks of ballots that were located, under tables and counting those ballots. And I don't know who they were for or who they were against, but I know something. It should have been done while everybody was watching. And if it means something to me, it should mean something to you. Why should any of us take the time to vote unless the vote's going to be fair? So let's all keep our eyes open and make sure we're ready to record with our phones any irregularity, because if it smells like fish, it probably is.
Now, you've said a lot of great things, but what do you really want, the viewer to take away from this podcast?
This is what I want them to take away. That if you elect me on August 20th, 2024, you're going to be getting a state attorney who's going to be fair and square. I'm going to clean up the problems that I inherit if I'm elected. I'm going to run the office more efficiently, meaning less costly to the taxpayer. And I'm going to make it so that anybody accused of a first offense where it is not violent, that they get offered a diversionary program, that if they successfully complete that program, that the charge will be dismissed and their record will be clean. I'm doing this with the hopes that I will be able to use the remaining resources to deal severely with repeat and violent offenders. I think people who commit murder have to be prosecuted and resources have to be devoted to their prosecution. We don't need murderers and burglars and robbers and rapists roaming our streets. I want to keep all the residents of Palm Beach County safe. I want them to have faith that the state attorney, in cooperation with the police, are going to be just, and we're going to be colorblind. We don't care what you look like or what you believe in. We just care. If you committed a crime, then you got to be prepared to do the time.
Well, you have my vote.
Got mine also.
Thank you. I need the vote of you and all your friends. This is probably the first time you're going to be casting a vote this election, and it makes a difference. We need to have a prosecutor that's going to be fair and square. We don't need a prosecutor who is not going to prosecute crimes. Two of my Democratic opponents are running, saying that if they're elected, they're not going to prosecute people who are accused of shoplifting or retail theft. I think that's a terrible idea. I think that if people go into CVS and know they could steal up to $1,000 worth of merchandise, well, they're going to do it. And if CVS loses $1,000 worth of merchandise, then when they have to restock that merchandise, that the prices that all of us pay, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're in between, rich, poor alike, the prices go up. So we're all the victims of retail theft because the retailers pass their losses on to us. And I'm going to stop that. I don't like the fact that it costs $7 for deodorant. And it didn't. And it didn't before prosecutors, blue state prosecutors, Democratic prosecutors, refused to prosecute criminals for retail theft. We're not going to do that in Palm Beach County. And again, finally, if you are thinking of coming to Palm Beach County to commit a crime, know this, that if you're not legal and we catch you, we're going to hold you. We're going to prosecute you fairly. If you're convicted, you're going to do your time. And afterwards, if you are not legally here, you're going to be turned over to Immigration and Naturalization Services. And that's fair and square. People who come here saying that they're being victimized elsewhere shouldn't come here and make us victims of crime. That's the bottom line.
Well, it's been an honor having you on the Strivers podcast.
Thank you, Mr. Freedman.
We wish you the best of luck with the upcoming election, and we hope you win and get a seat in office.
Thank you. And again, we have many jobs here, and we're always looking for good, qualified young people working for the state, working for the prosecutor's office or the public defender's office. It's a good career path to follow.
Yeah, and we got the shirts. Run, Forrest, run. So
vote today.
We'll vote. Thank you for coming on the Strivers podcast, and we'll catch you in the next episode, guys. Thank you for watching.
See y'all later.